Currently, I believe he's called to active duty from the reserves. His mother is in attendance. He wants to get involved with the party. He understands now what the rules are. I've been accused out there on social media of being against a veteran wanting to run for office. That's not the case whatsoever. I'm upholding the rules of the party and the laws of the state of Indiana. My father is one of the oldest living veterans in the state, or in the county right now. P.G. Gentrup and his group recognized him 5 years ago at the Aurora Farmers Fair. He's been on a burial detail for over 60 years. I myself have been a member of the American Legion SAL longer than Sam Mortensen's been alive. So the case that he's making that I'm against veterans is totally a shame. I wanted to bring that out there, but I also have to challenge Brent Fox, and he understands the challenge based on the previously submitted form.
Mr. Brent Fox is not here.
No.
I'm his wife. He is not here due to military duty, but am I allowed to say something?
I'll recognize you. Go ahead. Please take the thing, then you can swear you in. Ms. Fox, you please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. All right, very good. Go ahead, please.
I just wanted to state something just so that we're all aware. I was with my husband when he filled out the form, and when we read about being in good standing for the election part of it, we just, in our mind, reading the form, got general election, didn't realize that it was the primary election. So I just want to state he did not purposely, falsely fill out this form, and if we would have read that correctly, he would have came to Mr. Rule ahead of time and purchased this. And we also are not saying that you're against the veterans. That's not to be conversation. So I just want to
No, I agree with you, and I think your husband is a quality individual, and I'd love to see him get involved in the Republican Party.
I just want to set the record straight. It was not on purpose. Thank you.
Mr. Dole, you have a rebuttal on this. The statement has been made that Mr. Fox is currently serving. Is there any condition or any rule that you're aware of that gives any leniency for people that aren't able to correct? But I guess I'll ask this question first. Did he actually hand his form in person? Was he here in the country, or did someone hand it in on his behalf?
I believe he filed the forms himself. I wasn't there, but he alluded to that. And I would just say that I appreciate Mrs. Fox's comments on her husband's behalf, and to set the record straight on how this proceeding has transpired.
And Mr. Dole, the follow-up question: are you aware of any election rule or law or internal party rule concerning people that are serving overseas? Any issues with that?
Well, I don't know this to be a fact, but my understanding is, maybe you go ahead and
please.
So my husband is a reservist, and he's on active duty, but he's a reservist. So he's went to his JAG lawyer, and it's legal for him to run because he is a reservist, not active duty. He's just on active duty orders. We want to make sure of that before we did anything. And he will be out of the Army by November of this year. So either way.
But is there any rule that would impact our decision today?
He's not overseas, but also with the primaries, he was gone the last primary. Just having only a few days to check from all of his history. He's been in the military for 13 years, so can I say he was gone on every one of those primary elections? Do he couldn't have?
You swore to tell the truth, so if that's true, I will take it as true.
Okay, well, and I can't say that he was, is what I'm saying, like, just having a few days of knowing when this was happening, I couldn't look up every year where he was on those dates that the elections took place. So I'm not here to argue with Mr. Dole. I understand why he's doing it. I just wanted to clear my husband's name.
Appreciate that.
Mr. Dole,
I do not know of any rules or laws that directly affect that. I will say that Brent has been a voter in all the general elections, or not all of them, but I believe 6 or 7 of the general elections. If I'm going from memory on his voting history. He has the same opportunity to vote in the primary as he does in the general election, and the military does make every attempt to make a applicant for him to vote.
Gotcha, but there's no rule or anything that would impact our decision here that we have any knowledge of. Mr. Cole is presenting as the reservist. Do you have some?
This is just evidence. This was his form, and he was requesting that Mr. Dole sign that to allow him to be on the ballot, which according to the rules that you, when we read, stated Mr. Dole has the ability to do that if he so chooses.
Mr. Dole, are you willing to sign off on this one?
No, I'm not. Again, that form has to be signed off on prior to submitting to CAN 37. It clearly states on CAN 37 that form needs to be signed off on and submitted with the CAN 37 at the time you're turning your application for candidacy.
Thank you, Mr. Dole. I just want to make a real quick comment to the crowd. No one is on trial here. No one's on trial that they're a good Republican, bad Republican, good American, bad American. What we're looking at is just the rules in front of us. That is the sandbox we're in as a committee here. So please, thank you for your husband's service, and thank you for being able to put up with that. At this time, I'll call for the motion that Mr. Brent Fox, that Mr. Dole's challenge.
Did I say something?
Yeah.
Yes.
Excuse me, guys. I'm gonna say this right now. We're gonna keep the quorum in here. I'm gonna ask people to leave. Okay? I'm serious about it. Mr. Lawrence, I'll recognize you. Please take a stand, and you have to raise your right hand, please. Please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, please go ahead, Mr. Lawrence.
And I have no intention of speaking here today. I do not know Mr. Fox, but as a father of 2 children that served the military and been on deployments, as this young man, I think, for 13 years, and he sacrificed his life for us. If he could give our country and our freedom, if it wasn't for these soldiers, we wouldn't have that freedom, and they sacrificed their life and their families. I'm asking the Republican Party, and I am a Republican, to please consider signing that form today and let this man run. He's an American soldier.
Any rebuttal to that, Mr. Dole?
The only thing I'd say is, I did discuss this at length with Mr. Fox. He understands the rules. He's willing to participate in the Republican Party. Of the people that are being challenged here today, there was, I think, around 10 that had voted in 0 primaries. There were 3 that one of the last 2 primaries they voted in were Democrat, and they were being encouraged to run on the Republican ticket. And as long as I'm Republican chairman, I'm going to hold to the rules and the values of the party. I appreciate Brent Fox's service. Told him that myself. Told his mother that. Turns out I know his wife and her family, which I didn't know till when we were walking in here. I think they understand what the rules are, and I think they're going to play by them. And had he approached me prior to the filing, but this is being consistent across the board with the rules and the laws. And it plainly states that that form has to be submitted with the CAN 37. That ship has sailed.
I'm gonna allow one more comment, but we're getting way out of line here, guys, okay? So go ahead, please, and please state your name.
Vanessa Mortensen.
All right, please raise your right hand. I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God.
I swear to tell the whole truth and the truth, so help me God. Anyways, so he keeps reiterating that the IRS-CCA form shall be attached to the back of the CAN 37 when the candidate files his or her declaration with the county clerk or county election board as appropriate for the county. It's not and. A conjunction makes a difference in how it's interpreted. And versus or gives you the option, correct?
Correct.
Is that, in my English understanding, and is different than or. This is or. So these forms can be submitted to the election board, which is you guys, correct? This is the election board in our county?
Yes.
Perfect. Just wanted to clarify that.
Okay. All right. Mr. Marketing, rebuttal.
The only thing I would say is, on the form, as previously mentioned, under item 4, I have attached a statement by the county chairman of the county in which I reside, that I am a member of the political party which I claim affiliation. That is on the CAN 37, and when the people submitted these forms, they either knowingly or unknowingly certified that they were Republican in good standing when they were not.
So let's go ahead, I'll go ahead and make, or I'll call for the motion that Mr. Dole's challenge to Brent Fox, running for the Dearborn County Precinct Committeeman, Clay Township 2, be granted, and that Brent Fox, may not run for that office.
Second.
All right, any discussion before we vote? Say no discussion, go ahead, Mr. Roll call, Peggy. And I will do that. Very good. Next, we have Robert D. Remmers. Is that correct, or is that?
Mr. Reimers came in after the cutoff and, filed a withdrawal. So that needs to be discussed. He did not file it on time. So I think we should probably go ahead and proceed with the challenge since it was filed later than the deadline to withdraw his candidacy.
Understood. Thank you. I'll call for a motion after we go ahead, and move forward, even though it's withdrawn. So I'll make that motion. Anybody have a second on that?
Second.
Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we'll go ahead and move on.
I
Mark, you have-
request the board here's the challenge from Mr. Reimers. Again, it's, Mr. Reimers has not voted in any primaries. I did not know Mr. Reimers, he did not contact me. I have no way of knowing if he's a Republican, a Democrat, or an independent. He did not meet the 2-vote requirement, he voted in 0 primaries, and I would again cite the Indiana Code and the rules of the party and the Can 37 item 4.
All right. Does anybody have a rebuttal? Is Mr. Remmers, is it Remmers?
Reimers.
Is he present? Seeing no rebuttal, we'll go ahead and I'll make the motion to grant call for a motion to grant the challenge by, Mark Dole, stating that Robert D. Reimers may not run for Dearborn County Precinct Committeeman, Greendale 2. Any discussion before we vote?
As I said, he came in and did a withdrawal form, but it was after the noon cutoff deadline.
Peggy, your vote? I will join in that, so the challenge is granted. All right, next up we have, Jim Fulton, Dearborn County Precinct Committeeman, Greendale 1. So before you start, sir, we got Mr. Dole, he'll present, and then you get to answer this thing. So Mr. Dole, please present your case.
Mr. Jim Fulton, again, filed a Can 37, which says I comply with the requirements and laws of the state of Indiana and any candidate requirements set by my party's rules to be a candidate for this office. Mr. Fulton failed to meet the 2-vote requirement. I have him listed as a 1-vote Republican. I do not know Mr. Fulton to be a Republican in good standing, and he did not contact me prior to filing Can 37.
Anything else, Mark?
That's it.
All right. Mr. Fulton, please go ahead. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
All right, please go take the podium, sir.
Nice to meet you, Mark.
Pleasure to meet you,
We've never
sir.
spoken before. It's a pleasure to be here and back in my hometown and address this august body. I have a letter of introduction that I want to read first, because even though I'm older than Joe Biden, I still have a pretty good number. Quite a bit older than Joe Biden. So anyway, I filed the paperwork to be the precinct committeeman for Greendale 1. I live on Ridge Avenue in Greendale. I am a lifelong Republican, and by the way, I have copies of this if anyone would like to have it. And I've supported every Republican candidate since I voted for Barry Goldwater in 1964. How many of you remember that? I was born in Switzerland County in 1940.
Both my maternal and paternal families have lived in southeastern Indiana, Switzerland, Ohio, and Dearborn counties for over 200 years. We moved to Lawrenceburg from Switzerland County right after my dad was injured in World War II. And he worked for Seagrams for 42 years. So I was raised here. I graduated from Lawrenceburg High School, class of '58, and I enlisted in the United States Air Force when I was 17. The majority of my Air Force career was as an emergency actions controller in military command centers. And the last 9 years at Headquarters USAF and Headquarters SAC at the underground facility in Omaha. I retired from the Air Force with 21 years of active duty and 3 years of reserve time. I served in Vietnam in 1967 and 68 during the Tet Offensive. And during my Air Force career, I held a top secret crypto clearance, attended the following universities: Wyoming, Maryland, Indiana, and the Community College of the Air Force. And following my retirement from the Air Force, I studied computer engineering and business. I was employed by the Westinghouse Corporation from 1985 to 96, and they sent me all over the country. I was originally a computer security manager, then a telecommunications manager, and finally an emergency operations manager. Beginning in 1994, Westinghouse and the Department of Energy offered me an opportunity to spin out my own company from Westinghouse. During that transition period, they sent me to the Harvard School of Business, where I majored in entrepreneurship. The spin-out was initialized in April 1996 under the name of Emergency Services Integrators, and within 5 years, we emerged as the industry leader, the global industry leader. As the founder and chief executive design engineer, I served as president and CEO. The company was acquired by the Intermedics Corporation. I'm almost done, by the way, in December 2012. And today, our crisis information management software continues to be the global leader, and in fact, it's used by 45 different states, including Indiana, and every major federal agency responsible for emergency management and homeland defense. Upon retirement, we moved to Breckenridge, Colorado, where we continue to live until the restoration of our property on Ridge Avenue, which was a 3-year historic restoration process. It's on the corner of Broadway Street and Ridge, across from the Heroes Memorial, which, by the way, has a plaque for my uncle, who is in the Indiana Military Hall of Fame. Upon retirement, I am a member of the following organizations: the American Legion, the Vietnam Veterans Association, the Sons of the American Revolution, the Dearborn County Historical Society, Indiana Landmarks, the Ohio County Historical Society, the Switzerland County Historical Society, and Hill Forest Interval. My hobbies are retired racing greyhounds, American history, Abraham Lincoln, and I know that comes as a shock to you, and historic restoration. Twice each year, I grow a beard and dye my hair. I'm pretty good. I'm like the Scott here. And I make public appearances as Abraham Lincoln for the Historical Society and in celebration of Lincoln's birthday and President's Day. So that's, you kind of caught me between engagements with this short notice meeting that we're having today. And so I left my stovepipe out in the car because I didn't want to create too much of a stir. But I am, the rest of the outfit is here. Okay. So I'm a lifelong Republican, and I'm under oath, and I recognize that. So every single word I'm telling you is true to the best of my ability. I have never voted anything but Republican. However, as Mark apparently has pointed out, I was shocked to find out I was being challenged, for one thing. I found that out on Friday, that I was being challenged. And since it was a weekend coming up, and yesterday was President's Day, I made no attempt to reach out to anyone because it was a weekend and a holiday, and I felt no need to do that. But until then, I had no idea that anyone would challenge my qualification. Okay, now to explain my voting record. The record will show that in the last primary, I voted a complete ballot, which is really not any kind of an infraction. I am a registered Republican. I voted Republican in the previous primary, but the last time I voted a complete ballot because there was a very important candidate that I did not want to lose to a Democrat. And so I met Ryan Good a couple of years ago when he was working with Main Street Greenwood. And then later, Ryan and I served on another committee together for the Greendale's Christmas on the Avenue, where we open up the historic homes to people that come in to raise money for the Dearborn County Historical Society. Ryan Good is a fine man. He ran, well, I'm presuming we didn't actually have this conversation. Ryan is a pastor at a prominent church. In fact, my home church, where I was confirmed in 1951 or 1952, Hamlet Chapel, across the street here. He's a pastor to Democrats, Republicans, and probably everything but atheists. Probably not a pastor to atheists. Ryan was seeking the city council seat in District 1 in Greendale. He was not opposed by a Republican, but he was opposed by a Democrat. And knowing that people vote straight tickets a lot, particularly around here, I was very concerned about his ability to get elected, because all the Democrats were going to vote for his opponent that voted straight tickets. The Republicans were not even going to see him on the ballot. And so I talked to a lot of people to get them to get a full ballot so they could vote for Vince and vote for all the other Republican candidates, but also vote for Ryan because he's a fine man and a hard worker and he deserved to be elected. So the record does show that in that occasion, I pulled a full ballot so I could vote for Ryan Good. He was elected by the narrowest margin that we had, a handful of votes. And I don't take credit for that, but I think I had a role to play there. Because I voted for him and I convinced a lot of other people to not vote a straight ticket so they could vote for Ryan, and he did get elected. So he is now our council representative. So that's the end of my presentation. I'm sure there's some minutes I can yield to Mark for rebuttal, but I will say that the tone of this event does give anyone asking a question the sense that they're swimming upstream. That they're swimming against a current that is immovable. My reasons are true, and my reasons are solid and sound, and they certainly aren't anything that would denigrate the Republican Party or take away from the process, the election process that we have. Another thing to consider, I'm not running for elected office. I'm running as a nominee for a precinct committee position. Okay, so I yield to Mark, I guess.
Any questions from the committee? Any questions from the committee? Mr. Dover, rebuttal.
I would just like to, considering Mr. Fulton's age, how far back did the voting records go in the clerk's office? Because most of the people that were challenged here were young enough that we had their complete voting history.
Less of a history on him than we did on the others.
Please?
There's less of a history on him than we did on the
Yeah,
others.
and my records show, have you lived in Greendale for a long time, or?
No, I just, I bought the property on, and the letter that I handed you says this.
Yeah.
I bought the property on Ridge Avenue in 2017.
Okay.
It is a very important historic property. I spent 3 years restoring it. And so we didn't move back here from Breckenridge, Colorado until 2020.
Okay, so that's why I couldn't find a vote history for him. So he came back in 2020.
2020 is the first history that we have.
Yeah, and Greendale votes, they vote every year, right? Because they either have a city election or every 2 years, because they vote twice as often as the county people.
They vote 3
But
years.
the only record that I could find on you, Mr. Fulton, showed that you voted in the general election in 23 and the primary in 23. No other vote history whatsoever. And I was just questioning whether that was correct, because if he had a 2-vote history, I couldn't challenge him. And I mean, if he's been Republican, and I don't know when you moved or back and forth, but if that could be generated, I wouldn't be able to challenge him. But the fact of the matter remains that Form 37 was filed with a 1-vote history on there, and knowingly or unknowingly, he certified that he was a Republican in good standing, which by everything that I can ascertain, was, the form was incorrectly filed. So I don't know when this gentleman moved from Dearborn County out of state or whatever, but that may be something that.
May I respond?
Yes, please.
Well, I moved from Dearborn County in 1958 when I joined the Air Force. And I spent 24 years traveling around the world. And then Westinghouse Corporation sent me to Augusta, Georgia, where I lived for 30 years. And when I sold my company, which was headquartered in Augusta, I bought a home in Breckenridge, Colorado, and I lived out there until I returned home.
So until 2020, you hadn't lived here since 58, basically.
That is correct.
That answers the mystery of why we couldn't find any more vote history on him, and I don't doubt his allegiance to the Republican Party, but there again, the Form 37 was filed in error, at the time it was filed, he was not a Republican in good standing and did not have a certification from the county chair.
Any questions? Mark, I have one question if they don't have one. The gentleman's dressed like Lincoln. You gotta address it. I mean,
I like him.
I mean, does that any consideration to that? I mean, there has to be some statement about it.
If a breakfast gets you in.
But again, I'm not here to pick and choose who goes on there. I'm here to uphold the laws of the state of Indiana and the rules of the Republican Party.
Could I ask one more question? I know you don't
Yes,
want
Just wants to.
ongoing dialogue here. But first of all, I was unaware of this, of the fact that since I voted a full ballot, that somehow negated my standing as a Republican. I assure you that I didn't vote for anybody other than Republican candidates and this independent who was being opposed by a Democrat. So if it wasn't for my efforts and the efforts of some of the people that I discussed, a Democrat would be filling that seat in Greendale right now instead of an independent who was the person that I sponsored.
And consequently, the gentleman he's referring to is a Republican in good standing. He just ran as an independent.
Does the board have any other questions?
No.
All right, so right now I'll call for the motion. The motion is to grant the challenge presented by Mark Dole, so that Mr. Guy Fulton may not run for the Dearborn County Precinct Committee in Greendale. That motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, is any discussion want to be had? All right, I'm gonna just make one statement. I mean, the issue is that, you know, we're sitting here, we're faced with the rules of law. This committee
much as I would love to have a gentleman dressed like Abraham Lincoln, one of the greatest Republicans, the first Republican, be there, that one of the issues that Mr. Lincoln lived for was the rule of law.
Please allow me one more
Absolutely.
final comment, and this will be my final comment. As it has been pointed out, Mark has the means to weigh this, because clearly I'm a Republican. Clearly I have a history of voting Republican. The document that I signed said that he has the ability to waive that requirement. I am requesting that he does that. And it doesn't have to, and by the way, I didn't know I was going to be challenged, or I would have contacted him in advance and requested that they consider the fact that I voted a full ballot the last time I voted, having voted Republican prior to that. So he certainly has the ability right now to waive that by Indiana law.
I absolutely agree.
Okay, I'm done.
Absolutely.
I'm done.
All right. At that point, we have a motion on the floor. So any other comments? I don't want no more comments. We're not doing more comments. Let's go ahead and go to the vote. Peggy, what is your vote? Unfortunately, we're going to have to join in with them. All right. Next is Richard C. Martin. There's a challenge that Richard C. Martin not be allowed to run for Dearborn County Precinct Committeeman going for.
Again, the exhibits before you, can 37. I show Mr. Martin voting as a Republican primary in 22 as a Republican and in 19 as a Democrat. He does not meet the two Republican primary requirement, and he also did not seek certification from the county chair, and I do not know him and haven't made contact with him.
All right. Is that all you got, Mr. Dole?
That's it.
Is Mr. Martin present? Martin is not present. Anybody speaking on behalf of Cloud for others? Seeing nobody speaking on their behalf. Mark, any other comments you'd like to make? There's no rebuttal necessary then, so I'll go ahead and.
You got one in the back.
Yes, ma'am. Can you please come to the front?
No.
You have to raise your right hand if you want to make a statement. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Please state your name.
My name is Tracy Stiegel. I'm unclear as to if there are the rules that have to be followed and you have to file and this has to take place. I did not follow the rules. Why are we here? Why don't they all they don't get it? They didn't follow the rules, they do not. I am under the impression that if we are here, it is because there is an opportunity to look at each individual case and see what happened, and if the rules weren't followed, there is an opportunity to clarify that, and that he could approve someone, or the board could approve someone. Otherwise, it just seems to me it's a no-go. Oh, no, you didn't make it, you missed the deadline, boom, it's over. It's over. So I'm unclear as to what this proceeding is all about. If they did not follow the rules, why are we here? I thought it was because there's an opportunity with the board and with Mr. Dole to override and say, oh, I understand, there's something went wrong there, there was a misunderstanding, you are a great person, you should be a Republican, we should go ahead and put you back on a volunteer position ballot and let it happen. I don't understand, if it's gonna be, you didn't stay from that paper to that paper, the rules were followed. I don't understand why we're here.
One, we're all being educated. Number two, all of us are great people. And then number three, yes, you have the opportunity to provide what you need to provide. The first person that came up, she actually gave us some documentation, but the documentation wasn't what we needed. This gentleman, had he come forth with his voting history in the other states, which he's moved a lot, he's been in other places, had he had that proper documentation, then we would have had an opportunity to possibly move forward.
she had documentation she voted Republican. How is that consistent?
The
Documentation
documentation
was
was
not
not a primary, and it was just that she was a registered Republican. It's different. So it didn't follow what the requirement was for the paperwork. It was different.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Indiana, I don't know, it seems rather special that a primary vote is part of the qualification, because by the time the primary gets to us, it's usually over. So nobody votes. I mean, there, depending on what's going on in the country and how this is all playing out, a primary election is something that a lot of people are just like, it's over. So why is a primary vote part of the qualification?
They're all important.
That is the only reason, the only way that you can receive and know how a person has voted. They have, in the state of Indiana, you have to either pull a Democrat or Republican ballot. And that's why that state statute says the last two primaries, that's where the parties can pull their information to see how they voted. Because when you register to vote anymore, you do not declare if you are Republican or Democrat at all. It is not on your registrations at all, as it used to be back in the day. So this is how we can determine what party you are affiliated with by voting in the primary election.
So if he did not bring his voting record from Colorado, his testimony and his resume and everything that he has stated is of no value whatsoever. It had to be a record from Colorado.
I don't think that's absolutely true, so, the issue is Mr. Dole can say that this person is a Republican, even if you hadn't been, I believe.
I could have said that prior to him filing the
No.
1037.
Or to the election
But
board.
It can actually take place
Read the
here.
form, it's under subsection 4 of 1037.
So,
Plainly stated.
Am I misunderstanding what he brought up, and the lady behind me that's no longer here, but had brought up that that we can't actually make decisions at this moment in time? It seemed to be clear in all those regulations, that is a capability that y'all possess.
my understanding of the rule is that if Mr. Dole agrees to sign off on that, they can proceed. He's not agreeing to do that at this point, so
Yes, I guess I just don't understand.
So, one of the comments you made is, why are we here, period, if it was on behalf of the issue is that, Mr. Lincoln, who's interestingly enough, who's here in person, wrote a beautiful amendment to the Constitution called the 14th Amendment that guarantees due process. So even if the rules say you can't do something, the Constitution of the United States demands that you get notice and a chance to be heard. And that is one of the golden rules of America. So even if we may not agree on it, we do want to hear your opinions, and we want the people to voice. There's no statement from this board that I agree with the current law. I don't think any of the committee. That's not why we're here. And so I think the issue is that possibly write your senator that this rule chase or is uncomfortable to some people. They're the ones who write it. We are unfortunately sitting here trying to enforce a positive back.
I just want to ask one thing, and I'll be
Sure.
quick. I'm sorry. The due process that you speak of, it seems to me we had two people read things that would be part of the due process, and that it is capable to change the outcome today. That is part of the due process. So I feel like we might be negating part of our wonderful Constitution here, that the process is in process as we speak right now. And falling back on something that didn't happen, we're here because it is part of the process to change that. It seems legal.
Yeah,
Seems like
it does,
it's
but
part.
I think you're getting the process, the due process is just notice and a chance to be heard,
Yeah.
right? The issue right now is that there's a procedure in front of the board that Mark is not agreeing to sign off on people. That could be a condition. Because of that, we must follow the rules of the law set before us, and therefore, we have to define, we may be going through this process, and maybe there was a mistake or something like that, but like I said, we're gonna give everybody a chance to talk and explain their side.
So my last, just to be sure, his ability to, accept them, his declination is just based on what he feels, and because there is the opportunity at this moment in time for him to accept. Is that true?
It's my belief, Mark disagrees with that.
Thank you.
Like I said, it's his opinion, so.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Did we already go for a vote?
No, not already.
All right, very good. So, Rick Martin, so I forgot where we're at in the process. We had to see. 1 year, okay. So I'll call for the motion right now that the challenge by Mr. Dole be granted, that Rick Martin, not be allowed to run for the Dearborn County Precinct Committeeman in Lawrenceburg.
Second.
All right, any conversation? Peggy, your vote please. Very good. The next person we have up is Will Halbig, and he is running for Dearborn as, there's a challenge. Do I hear something? Sorry. Let me delay my last there. Next one up, Rick L. Johnson. There's a challenge for him running for the Dearborn County Precinct Committee, Manchester 1. Mark Dole, can you present your case, please?
Rick L. Johnson filed CAN 37, and it says, I comply all the requirements of the laws of the state of Indiana and any candidate requirements set by my party to be a candidate to this office. If required by my political party's rules, I have attached a statement by the county chairman of the county in which I reside that I am a member of the political party in which I claim affiliation. Again, I'm going to go back to this statement 4. These CAN 37 forms were either knowingly or unknowingly falsely filed at the time they filed them, because they are certifying that they meet the state of, even if they knew them or didn't know the rules, they certified that they did, and they also further certified that if they didn't meet the rules of the laws of the state of Indiana or the rules of the party, that they received and attached a statement from the county chairman that plainly states that. So I'm challenging based on the fact that they don't meet the laws or the rules of the party, and that they're not Republicans in good standing, and furthermore, the fact that they certified that they are. The forms were incorrectly and falsely submitted, so either knowingly or unknowingly. And another thing, just like Mr. Fulton's situation and Mr. Fox's situation, most of these forms were filed in the last, most of them were filed in the last 24 hours. Several of them were filed in the last 48 hours. So there wasn't time for anybody to really ask for a form. And I think that was probably by design, by somebody trying to torpedo the party. I have to stand up for the rules of the party and the integrity and the ideas of the party. So that's, again, why I'm here, and that's why I'm challenging Mr. Johnson as well.
Is Mr. Johnson here? Seeing no counter argument, go ahead and call for the motion. Also, I'd like to, I don't know if Mark brought it up, but I believe that the statement from the committee, I believe you has voted in one Republican primary.
And one Republican primary and one Democratic primary.
There we go. So based on that, I make the motion that Mr. Dole's challenge to not allow Mr. Rick Johnson to run for Dearborn County Precinct Committeeman Manchester 1 be granted. Motion. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Tim, Peggy,
I decline.
and I decline as well. Therefore, the challenge is granted. All right, next on the docket, we have Mr. Will Halbig running for Dearborn County Precinct Committeeman, is that Center 5. Mr. Dole, please present.
Again, I would refer to CAN 37. He was also a candidate, one of the delegates that was challenged, and I would challenge him under the same basis as the party.
Anything else? Is Mr. Halbig present? Mr. Halbig, please come forward. Can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please go.
My name is Will Halbig. I'm running for my precinct commitment, and I just didn't know how to operate. I was kind of ignorant, didn't know it the last couple, because it started, the way things are going in our country, it's woken me up, woken up a lot of other people, and that's 2 p.m. on Tuesday. That's helpful, very helpful. That's all I can.
Mr. Dooley, rebuttal.
Appreciate you stepping up, Will. Again, we have a Lincoln Day dinner. You're more than welcome to attend. I would welcome you gladly to the party. And just as another point of clarification, I did not set the 2 p.m. time for this meeting, and I also had to take a half a day of vacation off, so just for the record.
Any questions from the committee? All right, seeing no questions, go ahead and make the motion that the challenge to Mr. Will Howard being allowed to run the Dearborn County Precinct Committeeman Center 5 be granted. Your name, call for the motion. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, is your vote? I will also vote. Therefore, the committee finds that Mr. Halbig may not run for Dearborn County Precinct Committeeman Center 5 in the challenge grant. Next one on the docket is the same as Mr. Will Halbig, also running for Dearborn County Republican Delegate at Large. Mr. Dole, can you please present your case?
Again, I would refer to can 37.
Can we just skip it?
Just,
Okay.
The same presentation as the last.
Mr. Halbig, any?
I'm ready to get out of here.
I'll make the motion that the challenge be granted, that Mr. Will Halbig not be allowed to run on the Dearborn County Republican Delegate at Large. May I have that motion?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, can you go to vote, please? I'll join in that as well. The finding of the committee is that Mr. Will Halbig is not qualified to run for the Dearborn County Republican Delegate at Large. That concludes today's presentation of evidence. I am going to allow a little bit of public comment if anybody would like to take. Once again, you have to put your hand up and swear to the truth, but please, I encourage public comment. Please, you in the back in the gray, please come to the podium, announce yourself, and we'll swear you in.
My name's Melody Richardson.
All right, you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, please continue.
I guess I'm confused as to the importance of standing behind this podium and raising my hand. And you're gonna take my word for it, that I'm gonna tell the truth. And every person here that's running or presented themselves have taken that oath. And because they have incorrectly, whether, like I said, I choose to believe, they just, as they've said, they're given their word. They didn't know to do it that way. And they're standing here and confessing that. And they can turn and talk to Mr. Dole and share that with him. And it is a face-to-face meeting where they have given their word under oath. In this day and age, does that not mean anything? That if you didn't file paperwork correctly, and you're willing to stand here and acknowledge that, and say, but nonetheless, I am in good standing with the Republican Party. And this man, Mr. Dole, could say, okay, but because again, you know, you didn't attend a breakfast, or you didn't give your money, or whatever, your word gets nullified. In my opinion, my word means more than that. And if I say I'm sorry, I didn't fill the paperwork out, will you, Mr. Dole, who it's my understanding has the authority right here and right now in front of all these people to say, I acknowledge you as an honorable person, and I would love to have you, he said it, he wants more people to be involved with the Republican Party. Everybody here wants to be. Our word should mean something. We've stood behind here and you're taking our word that we're telling the truth. Why is that not enough for Mr. Dole to accept these individuals and let them run for the Republican Party? It is a free nation. Our word is supposed to mean something. And because we didn't fill a form out correctly, we're willing to tell the truth on that.
there's no mercy, there's no grace. It's, you didn't fill that form out right. And so they're here saying, my word means something, I'm sorry. Give me a second chance. And Mr. Dole is saying, no, you didn't fill the paperwork out. I don't believe you're saying. I don't believe that's enough. I just want everybody here to know, whoever stood behind this podium, your word means something to me, and you would get my vote. Amen.
Well, I thought we were here today for the purpose of enforcing the rules of the party and the Indiana State Code. Every person that was here today that was challenged, there are only 2 people of the whole group that voted in a Republican primary. Everybody else has voted in 0 Republican primaries. Therefore, by state law, they're independents. And there's 3 people that were here today that voted as a Democrat in one of the last 2 primaries. As a county chair, the vast majority of the people in here are Republicans. Is that what you want me to do? Allow somebody that voted in one of the last 2 primaries to run as a Democrat? I don't think so. Therefore, I have to be consistent across the board. As Sam said, can I pick and choose? I didn't pick and choose. He mentioned Steve Neal. I had him as one of my challenges. When I went to the clerk's office, her records didn't match mine. That's why I took him off. There was another person, and it was the same case. I'm not going to endorse or sign off on independents or Democrats to run in a Republican primary. Plain and simple, that's my job. It's my duty. It's the oath I took when I was elected Republican chairman.
Any other comments? I'll take 1 or 2 more and then we'll have to wrap it up, folks. Anybody else? Please, miss, go ahead and please take it.
I just have a question.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
My name is Tiffany Foster. I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, so help me God. My question is there a deadline to contest a state delegate, whether it be Dearborn County, Ohio County, Switzerland County, Decatur County? Is there a specific deadline either by county to contest a delegate, or is the state have a specific deadline for all counties to follow to contest a state delegate?
Do you mean to challenge?
Or challenge, contest?
Yes. It was February
16th.
16th.
Well, that was
by noon.
That was the deadline to turn in your state delegate information. So once the information is turned in.
That was the 9th. The 9th was the deadline to file.
Okay. So
As
February
a candidate, the 9th at noon. And
right.
there's a week. Okay. The following Friday is the date that the challenge has to be filed.
Okay, so by last Friday it had to be filed.
Correct.
So if it isn't filed by now, then any other delegates in any other counties who may not meet these protocols.
I don't know about any other counties. This is just for Dearborn County.
Okay.
Our hearing was today in Dearborn County. Other counties may have their hearings other days.
Okay, but the deadline to file that was the 12th, and if someone had submitted their state delegate form, then if they were being contested, they should be informed after the 12th, but there's no, you have to be informed by X amount of days after the deadline, is what I'm asking. And that's my second question.
Yes, and that was done on Thursday and Friday. So there's no set time. Once the challenge is filed, then we have to reach out to the candidates.
Okay.
Immediately when they're filed.
Okay, so as soon as someone would contest it or challenge it, then it has to be immediate response.
We typically try to do immediate response, yes.
Okay, so that in Dearborn County, let's say, yes, your deadline was on Friday, I just wanna make sure I understand this correctly. Then you have those 2 days to reach out to those candidates or people that are filing or trying to be elected. And then at that point, it's over and done with. There's no, because everybody goes, the 12 people here that took time out of their day to come up here and give their testimony or whatever, then it's done then.
That's why we have a challenge hearing.
Okay, and that's for all counties like Switzerland, Ohio, yes. They would follow the same suit,
They should follow the same as well.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna take one more comment. Anybody else have one more comment?
help for educational purposes. Could you please explain the case of Wendy Beatty, B-E-A-T-T-Y, who voted Democrat 2016, Democrat 2020, and then I think Republican. So it's two Democrat, one Republican. How does that work out? I don't understand.
Wendy Beatty is a qualified Republican, having voted in the last two primaries, she voted in as a Republican.
Prior to being
Elected
elected, she was
primaries.
not.
Yes.
22 and 23.
22 and 23.
Doesn't matter, as long as they're consecutive.
Seeing no further, comments or questions, I'm gonna go ahead and ask for a motion to adjourn. All in favor? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, folks.